All right, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
All right. So just to finish up on the introduction I was doing on regarding the SQL Server Management Studio. So at the top left here, you have if you click on that if you click on that, it drops down, and then you have a list of the databases that you have in on the server. So this shows the databases that I have: AdventureWorks 2019, AdventureWorks 2022, Master Model, MSDB, TempDB, and AdventureWorks are actually user-defined databases, as I mentioned, and starting from master, those are system-defined databases. You don't go there, you don't touch them. Those are made to make the server work properly. Next to that, to the right of that, you have the execute command. Anytime you write a query, you use the execute command to execute the query. So you can optional, you can also use F5 on your keyboard. It does the same thing with pressing execute. And above execute is new query. Anytime you want to create a new query window, you want to start writing new query, a fresh query, you click on that command. It's going to give you, just like you click on new in Microsoft Excel, you create a new spreadsheet in Microsoft Excel. And to the right of that, you have other commands, which I'm actually going to just be pointing at command that are going to be we are going to use throughout the course. Others are, similar things, command you also see in other applications. All right. So one last thing quickly. So in case you don't have it, so if you go to tools, you can, if I start writing query now, if I write things, you see that on each line there is a number. We call it line number. It numbers the line of the query. So letting you know the number for each line. So if you want to add it, if you want that, you go to tools and you go options, and you can go to you look for text editor, general. That's it. No, it's not here. Text editor. No. Use that thing again. Okay, transact SQL. Yes, so you find it in transact SQL under text editor. Text editor, you look for transact SQL. Under transact SQL, you see at the right here, you see line numbers. So you check the box, you click on that box beside line numbers, and the line number is going to appear. Okay, and then you click OK. All right, so we can now start writing queries. Are we good? Can we move on? Mr. Kwam, okay, good. So to create a new query window, as I said, you click on the new query window. And then you can start writing your query. So the first query I'm going to write is this. And I'm going to execute it by selecting it. I can select it by dragging my mouse pointer over it, or put my mouse pointer on that yellow vertical line and then click. It's just select it for me. So, and then I'll click execute or F5 on my keyboard, and you're going to see the results. And you see that? Are you able to do the same, Mr. Rashid?
Yeah, I'll try it after the class because my system screen is small. I can't divide it.
Okay. All right. So technically, both Mr. Kwam and Mr. Rashid, both of you are following. Oh, what's the question? Do we have what? Do we have a particular data set we are working with? Yes, yes. That is AdventureWorks 2019. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Okay. So now the query you're looking at here, they select asterisk from human resources dot employee. What do all of, and then you have a semicolon. What do all of this mean? Select, as I mentioned, you have seen select before. Select is the statement that is used to retrieve columns. Is used to retrieve columns from the database table. Okay. Oh, rather, select is used to retrieve rows from the database table. So then you have the asterisk following it. So we have the asterisk. The asterisk is used to retrieve all the columns. The asterisk there indicates that we are retrieving all the columns from the table. Okay, all the columns. We're going to see as we proceed a situation where we select fewer columns. Next, we have the from keyword. The from keyword is used to specify the source of the data we are retrieving, where the data is coming from. And here, following that, is something called human resources. Then you have dot employee. So what does this mean? Human resources is a schema. It's what we call schema. Employee is the table that we are getting the data from. Okay, and what is a schema? A schema is used to organize data. It is used to organize tables. Tables that are related are grouped under one schema. So if I go back to Object Explorer, if you notice my the way the tables is being structured, you see that I have human resources dot department, human resources dot employee, human resources dot employee department history, human resources dot employee pay history, human resources dot job candidate, and human resources dot shift. After which you now have person dot address and so on. Now, all the tables. Now, before I go, human resources, as I said, is a schema. The name that comes after it, or the word that comes after the dots, is a table name. Now, those tables that belong to the same, let me use the same name now, or the same schema, are related. They are related, and that is why they are grouped under one schema. So a schema is like a department in a company where some employees belong to. For example, you have a company, you have the accounting department, you have the
Sorry.
yeah.
All these schemas and every other thing, are they automatically generated from the data set, or is this something we have to define ourselves?
You define these ones yourself.
So how
If
do
you
we
look
get
at,
to this?
hold on please, if you look at the tables above, you see DBO, right? DBO dot AW build version, DBO dot. So DBO is the one that is, DBO is a schema that is generated by default by SQL Server. Human resources, persons, and other ones are user defined. They are user defined schema.
How do we do that?
Now, how you do that is at the level of creating database. Is when you do that when you are creating database. Now, remember when I was presenting this slide, I mentioned that there are 3 sub languages of SQL. There is a sub language in which you create databases, you create tables, you create other things.
Yeah.
In that part of the if you are operating at that level, is where you create all of these things. You specify the schema, you specify the table name.
Yeah, but how do we create all of this? Like we have a data set. How do we create all these parameters from that data set?
Okay. I think I'm a little bit confused with your question.
Okay, like we have a raw data set now. How do we create all of this? You said the system generated one is automatic, which by interacting with that data set, it will automatically generate that one. How do we now break it down to all these subs? How do we generate all these ones from data set?
Okay, maybe let me answer the question. Maybe I think I understand your question now. So the scope of this course is for data analysis. This course is meant for data analysis. Okay, which means most of the things, the larger part of what we are going to be doing is querying data. Okay, which means that we're going to be using select a lot. That is, we're going to be using that part of the language, that sub language of the main language, which is data manipulation language. You remember from the slide. So data definition language, which is create, alter, drop, is not in the scope of this course. Does that answer your question?
It's not in the scope of the course.
Yes, data definition language, a level where you are defining objects, you are creating databases, you are creating tables, you are doing all of that, is not covered in the course.
Yeah, but in understanding what data sets we have, to be able to get at what we are getting now, we're having columns and rows that are defined. We have job titles and every other thing. But if we have a raw data, you don't have all of these headings and the rows. We should be able to like a what do I put? How do I put it now?
You should be able to convert that raw data into
yes,
tables, right? So that you can
yes,
query them. Yes.
yes,
You see, as most of your work as a data analyst, most
yeah,
of your work is focused on analyzing data, which means tables would already be given to you in most cases, except if you have been upgraded. You are now at that level you are now a senior, maybe data analyst, or a senior. You are at one senior level where you have you now have responsibility to create data yourself, to convert raw data into tables. In most cases, data sets is given to you. All you need to do as a data analyst is query the data and bring a meaningful, insightful information out of that data. That's why the course is focused on analysis, not on data definition.
okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Okay. So what the data we are working with is already defined. It's just
Yes.
to pick out.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I mentioned earlier that AdventureWorks 2019 is the sample database or data set. I even wrote it in my post, one of the posts I put up on the group, that AdventureWorks is the database or data set that is a sample database that we're going to use for practice. It has already been made for us. All of the data, all of the tables, everything we need is already there. All we need to do is query it, learn how to query it. And if now, say at the end of the course, you are given a project, I'm giving you a project, okay? I will not give you a project where you need to go and look for raw data and then convert it to tables before querying it. Likewise, in other data analysis courses, they will not ask you to do that. They will give you already made data. They will allow you to focus on analyzing the data.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
I'm good. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So now, as I was explaining, the select statement here. So I already explained what select means. Is a keyword that we are using to retrieve or to fetch the rows from the table. And asterisk means give us all the columns in the table. Okay, all the columns from the table. From keyword means that the source we are getting the data from. And then human resources, as I mentioned, is the schema, and I have just explained what the schema is. Okay, dot employee. Employee is that we are getting the data from, and then we end that with a semicolon. The semicolon is just like when you write a sentence in the English language, so you put a full stop at the end to indicate that this sentence has ended here. So this shows that this statement here has ended at this point. Okay. So now let's see an example where we would, let me put a comment. No, this will waste our time, so I'll just skip it. Okay, so next, Now let's now see a situation where we want to retrieve fewer columns. We have seen a case where we are retrieving all the columns. We are not excluding anything. Now, in case you want to retrieve fewer columns from the data, from the table, okay, so you have to provide the names of the columns that you want to retrieve. So say, for example, I want to retrieve from a table called employee. I want to retrieve at this same table. I want to retrieve just, let me look at the table. I want to retrieve, no, actually, let me use person from person table. I want to retrieve the person name, their first name, their last name, and maybe their ID. So how would I do that? So I'll select, let me say from person, that's from person schema, person dot person, first name, comma, last name, oops, last name, oops, last name, and then maybe the business entity ID. Okay, comma. So now if I select that and I click on the execute command, you see what I get. Now if you compare, if you look at what I have, I got just 3 columns, right? Business entity ID, first name, and last name, right? But 3. Okay, so this is if you want to retrieve data with fewer columns. Okay, if you want to retrieve data with fewer columns in the table, this is how you do it. Question? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. But I have a question. Why
Okay.
the new query that you just did now? Why do we have it on 3 different lines instead of, the first one is just on a single line and
Yeah, I can do the same. I can do the same for the first one as well. So
oh,
I can have
okay.
it that way. Space in most programming language generally, space is ignored. In fact, I can have it this way. You can write it, and that's seems to be. Hello.
Yeah, your voice was breaking earlier, but I got the message. That space
Okay.
does not really matter.
Yeah.
It's ignored when
Yes.
it comes to programming language, if I'm correct.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So with that out of the way, now let me use this opportunity to quickly introduce you to something known as comments. So you also find this in most programming languages, just like SQL is another programming language. It's called comments. So I actually wanted to write it earlier. Okay, Mr. Kwam, no problem. All right, Mr. Rashid, are you with me?
I'm with you.
Okay. All right. So comments basically is used to put a note on your code. So you know, it is a good thing to always have something that when you look at it, you quickly understand it, rather than something that you have to think a little bit more before understanding it. Now, when you look at this query, the meaning doesn't immediately jump out at you, even if you are an SQL, somebody who is very, very familiar, who knows SQL very well. The meaning doesn't just jump out at you immediately when you look at it, especially when it becomes more complex, when you write more complex queries. This is just a very, very basic, very simple query. So, but if you have a statement like this, something like this query, say, if I put this query, retrieves fewer columns from the database table from database table person. Now, Mr. Rashid, which one would you quickly understand? Is this one, even let's assume that you are familiar with SQL. Which one would would jump out at you? Would you immediately understand when you look at this? This one up here, or this one?
The one at the top.
Good. So because that is the language you are very, very familiar with and you speak on a daily basis. So now SQL, but as it is now, you cannot use it. If I execute my query, I'm going to there's going to be a problem. Incorrect syntax, because SQL does not understand English. You understand SQL, it doesn't understand English. So we need a way to make SQL ignore this, because this is for us, not for SQL, right? So in order to make you ignore it, SQL gives us special characters that we can use to denote this, or to surround this with, so that it will ignore it. And that is / asterisk, and after at the end will be asterisk /. Now, if I run the query again, everything will work just fine. Do you understand?
Yes, I do. So the comment help us whenever another person or whenever we want to continue working on SQL, we will understand what we actually queried in that particular area without having to look through the
Code,
language and everything.
Yeah. You know, imagine that you wrote a query 6 months ago, and it was a very complex query. You had to think, in fact, maybe it was a project that was given to you. You have to think very deeply to accomplish it. Now, after 6 months, you came back, you opened your SQL Server, and you're looking at it. Do you think it will just jump out at you immediately? You would have to give it a similar kind of thinking that you gave it when you did it. It might not be up to that, it might not be that deeper, but it has to be some level of deep understanding before you understand it, right?
Yes, that's true.
But if you had pulled a comment, you wouldn't have to go through the query before understanding your code. So that is it. That is the purpose. We can call it for putting a note or for documenting your code, right? Whatever you call it. So we call it comment. And yeah, this one here, the asterisk forward slash asterisk is for multi-line comment. When you are writing a note that spans multiple lines on the editor. So this one is just 2 lines now, line 6 and line 7. I can continue, but you also have another one, another style that you can only use for 1 line. Another comments. So this one would not allow you to continue on the next line. If you want to do it on the next line, you have to provide that special character again. Is this clear?
Okay, that line is for if you want to add another comment.
Yes, the second one that I just showed you, you have to, is a single line comment. The one above is a multi-line comment, which means the one above, once you have it, you have asterisk forward slash asterisk. Everything you put between in that closure, in the enclosure of that asterisk forward slash asterisk, no matter the amount of lines it covers. Do you understand?
Yes, I do.
Can you unmute? It is you and I now, I think. You start to respond to me quickly. So do
Okay,
you understand my
yes.
point?
Yes, I do. I understand.
Okay. All right. So next, let's look at filtering. How to filter data in our table. Are you familiar with filtering? You should be.
Yeah, in Excel.
Yeah. Can you a little bit of explanation?
Filter is when you are trying to, when you're not trying, you're trying on a particular row or on a particular column rather. If you want specific data on that particular column, so you can use filter to, it will come with like a heading that you select what you want from and you ignore the rest that you don't need.
So exactly the same way it works here. So you filter out the data, the rows in particular, the rows you don't want. Remember that select statement is used to retrieve rows from the column. So select statement is basically going to give you all the rows in the table. Now, if you wish to filter it to restrict the or to remove some rows or to limit the number of rows you get, to limit the rows you get, then you use filter. So how do we do it? In SQL, this is how we do it. So now I'm going to use the same example I used earlier, this one. I'm just going to copy that query and I'll paste it here. So this query gives me, let me run that again. It gives me 19,972 rows. Can you see that?
I can see it.
Okay. So now let's say I want to filter it. Remember the query I showed you on the slide where we which was querying the database table and only retrieving persons whose last name is Brown. Let me do that here. So now I will just add, I will say where last name, oops, equal Brown. Okay, I'll run that. Now can you look at the bottom right again? How many rows do I get? 92 rows.
Yes,
Right?
it's only showing the ones that their last name are Brown now.
Exactly. So this is how you filter data in SQL using the where clause. We call it the where clause. So what comes after the where clause is the condition you are specifying. Condition for which you want to filter the data. The condition here states that where last name is only equal to this data, to Brown, and you can see that I put that in quotes, right?
Yeah.
Something we call quotes. We call it apostrophe in English. It's called quotes in programming, right? Are you familiar with
Yeah.
quotes, with this quotes in program? Anytime you put something in quotes, what do we call it?
You are specifying what you want.
There's something we
Like
call
I
it.
lied to you. I
No,
don't
no.
know how
When
to
you
explain.
anytime we put something in quotes in programming, we call it string. Are you familiar with that word?
No.
So we call it string. String is anything that is placed in quotes. We start with quotes and it ends with that quote. This one is called single quotes. I think I can also use double quotes. Okay, SQL does not allow double quotes. So use the single quotes here, only single quotes. So this is what we call a string. Even if I put number in it, if I put 1, that will still be a string, despite that it is a number. But because it is in quotes, it is in a string. If I remove the quote and I put it like this, then it will be a number. Do you understand?
Yeah, I understand. You. I understand the string you are talking about now. I get it.
Oh, okay. Okay. Any familiarity with programming?
No, not really.
Okay. All right. So that is how we filter. Now let me show you more example of how filtering works. So let's say we have let's use the employee table now. So the employee table contains some data of employees. Let me write a query to quickly do a general select. So select everything from human resources.employee. Okay, and I'm going to execute that. Now, how many rows do I get? I get 290 rows. 90 rows. So I have things like business entity ID, job title. Now, I'm particularly concerned about this job title. So let me just retrieve just job title and business entity ID. Business entity ID. Now, business entity ID is just like the ID of the employees in the company. You know that in a company, every employee has an ID.
Yes.
So job title. All right. So now, if I run this query as it is, so I get the business entity ID and the job title columns. So because I did not filter, I still get the same amount of rows, right? 290 rows.
Yeah.
Now, what if I want to filter the row to only see, to remove or to only see
Design
those
engineers.
employees? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. So what if I want to filter the table to only retrieve those employees whose job title is production technician? What would I do?
We are going to use the where job title equal to whatever it is that we want, and
Exactly. Where job title equal production technician. I think he has some number after it. Technician W.
let's just say design engineer. That one is easier.
Yeah, it's easier.
I think I think using SQL is more direct than every other programming language that I've tried to learn in the past,
uh,
because
SQL
it's
is very, very close to the English language. You can see the beauty.
yes, it is, and the command is straightforward.
Forward. So you see that?
But the only question I have is the essence of using SQL is I can as well decide to analyze data that are not much with using Excel. But then the essence of
Yes.
using SQL is okay, if I have a large data set, or if I'm querying the data from a database, that could be now. But I noticed that because I tried loading the data yesterday from the video that you sent, and I load it, but it's always I loaded the first 1,000 data. Can we do more than that, like at once, instead of loading just the first 1,000 row?
Yes, you can load any amount of rows.
Okay.
That is just
Mm.
built in into is built into SQL Server Management Studio, where you are using the option provided by SQL. In fact, in this class we have fetched a row that was more than 1,000.
Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah.
When using the asterisk is going to give you everything, all the rows in the table. But if
Okay.
you are using top 1,000, you are specifying the first 1,000, or you can say the first 10, the first 2, the first 5, the first 50. That is
Okay.
what top does.
I get it now.
So yeah, so we select, we filter the data. Let me also show you how to filter if what you are what you are filtering, the column, sometimes a column contains the rows of a column is number, and sometimes it is text, right?
Yeah.
When it is number, we say it is number, say it is integer. When it is text, that is when we say it is string. Do you
Yeah.
understand?
Yes.
So now in the example, the two examples I showed you earlier, this one and the one above, the column that we are filtering, that we are looking for, actually contains a data of string type. Now let's now see an example of a column that contains number. And I'm just going to use the same example. So let's say we want to now, what we want to filter by the business entity ID. I'll just copy that. I don't want to filter by I don't want to filter by job title. I want to filter by business entity ID. What would I do? So okay, in particular, I want to retrieve all of those persons whose the employees, all of those employees whose job title, whose business entity ID starts from 10 or from 11 upward.
Do
you understand?
That would be, yeah, I do. So that would be in the design engineer will replace that with 11 greater than. I don't know if that's correct.
Okay, so it will work like this. Business entity ID, where business entity ID greater than 10. Or we could say greater than or equal to 11.
Are we going to put it in quote also? No. Okay.
No, because it is a number, we don't put it in quote.
Oh, okay.
So you see the result. Do you notice that the records start from?
Yes.
Okay. So now we have this operator, the one that I just used here. This is the first time I'm using, although we've been using the equals to. So they are, let me introduce them to you now using this moment. I'll put it in a comment so that I will be allowed to do that. We call them comparison operators. Comparison So we have the equals to, which is what we'll be using. We have the greater than, we have the less than, we have the greater than or equal, less than or equal, and we have the not equal. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So we can use any of these operators to compare any two things which are number, except this one, I think. Yeah, except equals to. The others are used to compare any two things which are numbers. Clear?
Yes, it's clear.
All right.
So we can have more than one. Let me use command when we are using these. When okay, we are trying to query based on numbers now. I'm trying to apply my Excel knowledge to this. So we can say, for instance, now, I'm not sure I can come up with one example real quick.
Try.
So where business entity is equal to 11. Okay, can we have more than one query in one single? Okay, I think we can. I have my answer already. No problem. You've explained it already. Yeah.
Okay. So another type of filtering that we have is using the distinct keyword. So we can use distinct to remove duplicates in a table. So for example, you remember when I wrote a query to select the employee table. Let me do that again. From human human resources. Oops. Human resources dot employee. So you remember when I did this? Actually, let me limit it. Let me to the business, just business entity ID and job title. Okay, so when I did this earlier, we got some results, and if you look at the results, for example, here you have this person with this entity ID. No, this person with this entity ID 5 is a design engineer. Now there's another person here with design engineer. There are 3 people here with research and development. Oh no, research and develop 2 research and development manager 2 and 2 research and development engineer. And if we continue looking, we would see that there are cases, there are rows that are repeating. So in case you just want to you only want to see non-duplicate, or you want to remove duplicate rows. So you only want to see non-duplicate rows. Is it clear?
Yes, I'm with you.
So we use a distinct keyword. So here, if I say select business entity ID, job title, now I'll put distinct, just like you're using an adjective to describe a noun. Select distinct job title. Okay. Incorrect syntax near. Okay. Let me remove that. Are we good? Yeah, we're good. So this thing doesn't allow you to select more than 1 columns.
Okay, what if we have more than 1 column and we want to apply this filter here in more than 1 column? If we have more than 1 column, I'm talking about filter now, where we use where for numbers, integer, just like you called it. If we have more than 1 columns with numbers and we want to filter maybe all those columns together, like in job title column, we want numbers that are greater than, equal or greater to 11, but in year of employment, we want numbers that are greater than 2. Can we do that in the same with one?
Yes, what you're talking about is specifying two conditions in a query. Like where I have this business entity ID greater than or equal to 11.
Yes.
Then is it possible to specify another condition in addition to this one? Right?
In another column, not in another column, but in the same query.
Yes, I understand. Yes, it is very, very possible, and we are going to see. SQL provides us with the how do I put it, with a keyword to do that. Just like we've seen different keywords now that we can use, like the where clause. The where clause. The things it provides, the things that are in the language that we can use to do different things. Just like the distinct, select, from, all of that. We have what we can use to do that. It's called logical operators, and we're going to get to that.
Okay.
All right. So moving on now. I'm not going to talk about what you spoke about earlier, the top, to limit rows. So you mentioned that if you go to, I think it is it's time to have a break. So let's go for a short break.
Okay. I think you can stop the recording so that we'll continue later.
Yes, that's true.